Mbere tse sebaka se tona re go dumedise le mokwaledi wa lephata le ba ba go patapotileng re dumedise babereki ba bahano ka sekano se se tona sa babereki re viva workers power, viva! Viva! Viva workers power, viva! Viva! Viva the spirit of no surrender, viva! Viva! Re tisitse mokwalo wa matshwenyego ha wena tona. Mme re supe jalo gore mokwalo o anamele dikgaolo kgotsa di-region go bomolaodi ba leng teng di le 28. Mme ka sone sebaka se re tla bone re o bala le bone go dikgaolong tse 28 tseo o tla bo balwa ka tsela e ntseng jalo. Mme pele ga re tsena mo mokwalong re simolole pele gape ka go leboga boeteledipele jwa gago ka gore re ne re ipotsa gore a mme go tla kgonega gore o amogele mokwalo o re lebeletse dipitlagano le seemo sa pereko se o nang le sone. Mme re ntse re itse gape gore puso eo mo go yone e itamile gore ke puso ya ditshwanelo tsa batho mme ebile ke puso e bang dikeletso tsa babereki le batswana kopeng. Re a leboga gore a o maitlamo one lo bo lo santse lo a tshwere. Mo mokwalong wa rona tona setlhogo sa one ke formal petition against the leadership of the Permanent Secretary to the President and the Director of Public Service Management. We demand for urgent intervention. We, the 5+1 public sector trade unions, Bupeu, BTU, Bosetu, Bonu, BDU, and Manual Workers Union, submit this petition to formally raise several critical and pressing issues that are affecting the 2025-2026 salary negotiations and ultimately the public service staff morale, productivity, and the employee well-being. We note with serious concern that the 25-26 salary negotiations have stalled as a direct result of poor leadership of the Director of Public Service Management, Ms. Gaone Macholo, and lack of interest by a Permanent Secretary to the President, Ms. Peloetletse. Honorable Minister, the grievances articulated in this petition are pressing and require urgent intervention in order to restore the integrity of the 2025-2026 salary negotiations and the healthy relations between the trade unions and the government as the employer. Ke sone se re se supang gore bobedi jo kana ke bone bo tshoswere leng jwa bo direla puso mme ga go sokama re tshwanetse ra le ba bone ra supa gore o ka re dilo ga di tsamaye sentle. As the 5+1 trade unions, we are inspired by the teachings of Almika Cabral, who taught us the following on the revolutionary duty of leadership. He said, and I quote, "Hide nothing from the masses of our people, tell no lies, expose lies whenever they are told, mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures, claim no easy victory." Ke sone se re dumelang gore makgotla a babereki ka ga ntseng ka teng ha re sa ikgolole kana ga gona go ka re gololang jalo ke sone se re tletseng ga go wena gore re tle go tlisa dingongorego tsa rona ga pele ga gago le ba o nang le bone e le tsela nngwe ya go supa gore re tlhokana le go ikgolola and ga re se bua ka se re bua ka sone tota re tlwaetse. Cabral teaches us that it is a sin to hide the truth from our people and to mask any difficulty in a revolutionary project. We therefore collectively, with one voice, take this opportunity to expose the failings and shortcomings of the Director of Public Service Management, Ms. Gaone Macholo, and their implications on the broader relationship between the public sector trade unions and the government as an employer. Seo se tshwanetse sa le se gatelela ntlha ya gore gore re be re tsile ko go wena o le tona yo o lebaganeng le bo badirela puso ke gone ka gore re itse gore ko wena yo e leng gore re tshwanetse ra kgobokanyetsa ko go wena dilo tse tsotlhe tse di sa tsamayeng sentle tse re dumelang gore di dirwa ke babereki ba puso ba ba ka tlase ga gago. As trade unions, we are deeply committed to constructive social dialogue rooted in the mutual respect and respect for workers. As such, we will not under any circumstances tolerate the fragment, abuse and disrespect of workers and trade unions by the technocrats in the public service. The attitude portrayed by DPSM and PSP on the course of the 2025-2026 salary negotiations is deeply troubling and symptomatic of the toxic industrial relations environment. In particular, the conduct of Ms. Gaone Macholo that we deem offensive, abrasive, and confrontational as follows. Bargaining in bad faith with trade unions. Poor handling of the 2025-2026 salary negotiations under the leadership of the Director of Public Service Management. Attempts by the DPSM and PSP to divide and weaken trade unions through coalition and enforcement of divide and rule tactic. Kanye Rebuile Kaoridimela PSP as the head of the public service. Okabanara Habona Mema Macholo, Atsana Mutumalano Yeridimelang or a Harlo and Abudi Kuntingala or a Harlo and Abudi it is a really papa moba dereki. One more directly will affect the relations amongst the employees, will affect the sone structure as a lengore, badereki bote, baduelo moso. Maybe the reports are ore. How about you little baduelo? My dear Nemra needs to take a budgetary negotiations at 2025. Whenever duelo die, I can run out of hits that I can only see me sailing ore. Badereki bara ba yemetse mata a jua ka sone are ba tle o ipikala re mo seemong se re patele se hango tsa se pese se dumalaneng. We maintain our right to fully engage and fully negotiate for the better welfare of our members. Bargaining in bad faith and a lack of leadership by Permanent Secretary to the President, Ms. Peloetletse and DPSM Director, Ms. Gaone Macholo. Honorable Minister, you will note that the current government was elected by Botswana and the workers played a pivotal role in that respect. Indeed, many were convinced by the promise that workers' rights and welfare will be an urgent priority to the government. Re santse re dumela jalo gore lo ka tshwara maikano a lona a duleng a papaletse mo mahokong a lona a lo itsenya mo bathong ka one ya gore dikgang tsa babereki le dikgatlhego tsa babereki, dikgang tsa Batswana le dikgatlhego tsa Batswana lo ka di ba go pele go sa kgathalesege gore seemo se itshupa se ntse jang. The first step towards respecting workers' rights is bargaining in good faith with their trade unions and leaders on all bargaining matters such as salary negotiations. What we are witnessing at the 25-26 salary negotiations is an unprecedented ISO and attack on all labor rights. Furthermore, the Director of DPSM has elected to sign and publicize an agreement with another union before the negotiations between DPSM 5+1 trade unions were concluded. This conduct violated the adopted rules of engagement governing the salary negotiations. Despite this granted regard for the duty to bargain in good faith, the Permanent Secretary to the President failed to take any corrective and or disciplinary measures against her. By not taking any corrective and or disciplinary measures against the Director of DPSM, we are left to think that actions of the pair represent the interest of the government of the day. Rona re dumela gore jalo se ba se dirang go ra gore ke selo se lo se ba laela ka gore ga dilo di sa tsamaye sentle ba dira ka ga ba dirang ka teng ba sokamisang ka teng mme re sa utlwe lentswe la kgalemo le tswa mo go lona lo le baeteledipele gore ra gore lo kopanetse le bone magopa. Viva comrades, viva! Viva! Viva workers' power, viva! Viva! Panze Mama Cholo Panze! Panze Director Panze! Panze Peloetletse Panze! Panze PSP Panze! The director tried to... Oh yes. If their actions do not represent the government, we demand that government intervene and urgently remove or redeploy Ms. Peloetletse and Ms. Gaone Macholo to different government assignments in order to restore the integrity of the public service. We are further concerned and perturbed by the failure of Ms. Macholo to present government positions paper on the implementation of friendship salary structure as per the August 2024 agreement between the cooperating trade unions and the employer. Honorable Minister, you should note that there were a set of timelines which were agreed by the parties, but up to this day, nothing has happened. Dilo tse tsotlhe re di kopanetse le Mme Macholo re buile le ene ka sologelo ya gore o tla dira mme ga gona sepe sa se dirang. Se re mo tlotlileng ka sone ke gore she is a sweet talker without action. Viva comrades, viva! Viva! The director tried to squeeze in the friendship salary structure during the ongoing negotiation, knowing very well that the issue was concluded during the 2019-2020 salary negotiations and was only left with implementation modalities to be agreed by parties. Over and above that, the director refused to disclose the budget of the friendship amid repeated requests from the trade unions party. The original presentation by the AB consultant has been tampered with by the employer. The consultant is in the Chaco, Omahatim, Kabudira, friendship. He recommended Jalore, Hoshan push effect. Kahore, the ski Jano, the Katara. He made the superior Jalore, the 12 Tamadira Pusovale Hatsileno, the quotas. Même Marau Harry Potter, O'Neill, and represent the consultants. When I write them, I report the Teddy Morape, the Kana paid. Teddy Nebi Hapana, the city consultancy, in the Bisipu. Viva, comrades, viva! Viva! The unlawful and unprocedural awarding of 15% committed overtime allowance, we'll talk about it. We verily believe that Ms. Peloetletse and Gaone Macholo are misleading or misinforming the political executives on public service activities. Pronali dumela gore jaaka lo le mo pusong le tshwanetse go ka bolosa katore thata mo magopong a ditshologetso a lo a diretseng babereki a lo a diretseng batswana le re dumela gore go bolo bona la o ka re lo a katoga ke gore bobedi jo ga bo lo briefa kgotsa go lona a dikgang bo lona a dikgang tsa letlhakore le le mo hela tse e leng gore jaanong di tla bo di ba ba sentle mme gompieko re tlisitse gano boammaaruri jo le rona re bo itseng jo le rona re bo bonang ka bo diragala mo matlhong a rona. Honorable Minister, the DPSM Director's incompetence has further been highlighted by the deliberate attempt to derail the 25-26 salary negotiations through delaying tactics. For instance, she recently postponed indefinitely a date set for the continuation of the 2025-26 salary negotiations, only to come up with a date after we questioned her conduct. You should note that the reason given was that key negotiations from the government side were not available on the set date of the 18, 19, and 20 August 2025. This, she claims, despite the fact that government has 7 negotiators and 7 alternative negotiators. As 5+1 trade unions, we take a dim view on these ill-advised directory tactics, which only serve to heighten tempers at the negotiations, it is natural to believe that PSP ought to have intervened as the head of the public service, but she chose to be quiet. This one is saying, Panze Peloetletse, Panze. Panze Macholo, Panze. Victory to the workers, victory. Honorable Minister, the rule of law is non-negotiable. All government functionaries are bound to overtime allowance to the executive cadre retrospectively with arrears by end of March 2025. Government has incurred % committed overtime allowance alone. Viva workers' power, viva! Viva! Jaanong ha ile gore re tshwanetse ra tsakamano le ditsela tsa go somarela madi a le rona re dumelang gore ga ayo. E be ile gore ba bangwe bone rona ha re itlama thata bone jaanong go lebega mabante a bone a le loose. Rona ke rona re rotloediwang go raramatsa mabante. Viva workers' power, viva! Viva! While such a decision has no justification in law, as you are aware, the PSP is the head of the public service, and as such, the implementation of the public servants is, the remuneration of the public servants is a direct responsibility. Despite being aware that the payment of 15% committed overtime allowance is unlawful, PSP and DPSM Director failed and or neglected to take corrective steps to rectify this illegality. When the Director was questioned, she has failed dismally to produce a directive authorizing the illegal allowance, safe to say that it was a cabinet decision. Tsamaiso e re buileng re gakolola baeteledipele ke gore ra itse gore cabinet ha e sena cabinet has now taken decisions. Cabinet be dealing different government businesses. Mejano go tshwantse gore se le go di ama ba eteledipele go bo go tlotliwa jaanong e le gore go tswa secular saving grant e ya go lebaneng teng go communicate a decision ya cabinet dealing strictly with that particular subject matter. Mme go ya 15% e ne e dirwa e le sephiri mme e bole bone ba e ba amang ba rotloediwa gore ba seka ba bua ebile ba seka ba bolela. Mme le yone directive e leng e tshwanwa ke gore e be e tswa jaaka directive di nna ditso ga yaka ya dira mme ba o no mo ba romile mo di-negotiationseng ba dumetse jalo gore directive secular saving grant ga yaka ya dira. Gone mo re tshwanetse gore le makgotla a babereki re tlhomamise gore ga go gapogiwe ditsamaiso kgotsa the well-established government policies ebile go tshwanetse gore re rotloetse uniformity and consistency in terms of governance. Re tshwanelwa ke gore jaanong re tle gongwe re ye ko tshobokong mo magokong a rona. Ke gola re tla tlola tse dingwe ministera ka gore jaaka moeteledipele re tshwanetse go tlotla seemo sa gore ra tshwanela go emisa lebaka le le leng le ga bone le itse gore wena go ema ga ona mathata le gone. Viva workers' power, viva! Viva! Distortion of the salary structure. Honorable Minister, the Director of DPSM and PSP deliberately distorted the salary pay structure of the public service, and they are failing to account for such. Under their direction, we have observed that new positions are created at the Directorate and other government departments without due process. The Chengwa ke gore jaanong go direla puso bo gola go godimo go bathong ba maemo ba e leng gore ba turu ka tlhotlhwa mme jaanong ba bangwe ba seyo mo establishmenteng ya ga government ba bangwe e le gore jaanong le tsone di-job descriptions di dirwa ba setse ba le mo tirong gomo ra re ke sengwe sa dilo tse re tshwanetseng ra di kgala ra be ra supa gore bobedi jo ga bo dire dilo sentle. Viva workers' power, viva. The positions comes with huge costs which draws from the wage bill. It is important, Honorable Minister, to note that not only creating of position affects the wage bill, but also permanent secretaries are recruited from private sector and are being paid equivalent or more than what they were paid outside the public service. Permanent secretary, structure se tshwanetse go supa gore permanent secretary le baeteledipele ba bangwe ba amogela bokae mme gompieno go ikgela e le gore mongwe le mongwe o na le sephiri sa gagwe gomo ra re go tlisa dikgotlang ga gare ga baeteledipele ke sone se e leng gore le go tsaya ditshwetso ga ba kgone go tsaya ditshwetso ba phuthulogile ka gore ba dumela gore go na le ba e leng gore ba tshwanetse go dira tiro eo go ba gaisa. For the first time in the history of public service, we have permanent secretaries getting different salaries. She has further introduced allowances which are not given to all permanent secretaries, but only to a few chosen by her. We ask you to instruct the director to disclose to you all pay slips of permanent secretaries and other heads of departments, including herself and the permanent secretary to the president. Hona le di allowance tse dingwe tse e leng gore di tsentse mo bodirela pusong di seo mo white papereng di sa approviwa mo di-structureng tsa government e le gore mongwe le mongwe jaanong o na le di allowance tse e leng gore di dirisiwa go oketsa di-salary tsa bone e le gore ko boelong jwa letsatsi babereki bone ba le ba ba seong ga bone jaanong di-salary tsa bone di ko tlase mme re a itse gore ditlhotlhwa tsa ditirelo le ditlhotlhwa tsa dithoto ko mabentleleng di tlhatlogile. Viva workers' power, viva. Employers' litigious tendencies. Under the Director of the Public Service Management, DPSM, and the Permanent Secretary to the President, they enjoy noticeable shift towards litigation as a primary method of addressing disputes with trade unions, rather than pursuing a collaborative or alternative dispute resolution mechanism. The DPSM Director and PSM and PSP demonstrated a pattern of initiating court proceedings prematurely. They seem to be thrilled by this disposition. Moeteledipele wa DPSM jaanong o kgona go bitsa phuthego a ba e adresare re tswa go baja ko court re ipotsa gore gone mokgwa go go rae go supa boeteledipele jo bo ntseng jang. Last page. Our demands. We demand the immediate removal of the permanent secretary to the president, Ms. Peloetletse, because she has failed to provide strategic guidance, support, and coordination for the public service. Viva workers' power, viva. PSP, under Section 8, subsection 1 and 2 of the Public Service Act, number 30 of 2008, here at the head of public service. Nyago Sokama, the Transarale Bae, Leharin Zere Mekamekana, the Director DPSM. Harisir Bupehanding I Chupa Ding, Botawi Chupa, Jata Motsai. PSP failed to take appropriate action against the Director, even when the misconduct is crystal clear, especially where she demonstrated a clear deviation and or violation of government policies and procedures. Since the appointment of PSP, she has never engaged with public officers at different localities as this has been a custom to get filled, and I appreciate challenges the officers face while they are expected to provide services to Botswana. The genesis of public service disputes and disarrays lies on PSP, as she is the supervisor of the Director DPSM. The permanent secretary to the President is required to make rules and regulations, give instructions for managing public service. It is clear that during these wanting times of the collapsing labor relations in public service, PSP failed to direct and or give instructions for the efficiency and integrity of the public service. Viva workers' power, viva! Viva! We demand as well the immediate removal and or redeployment of Ms. Gaone Macholo to a different ministry or government assignment. As the Director of DPSM, she has failed the public service in the sense that she cannot give directions and guidance to permanent secretaries. The labor relations under her watch have deteriorated dismally, as she is the orchestrator of the divide and rule tactic, something which we consider and view, and we further do not tolerate as the new government. Unfair and unbiased recruitment, which is tantamount to nepotism and Directorate of Public Service Management and other ministries by her facilitation. Under her watch, government negotiation team has engaged in the process of falsifying records or minutes of the 2025-26 salary negotiations. In an effort to restore a cordial relationship between the trade unions and the government, and to build an agile public service as demanded by the President of the Republic of Botswana, Advocate Duma Gideon Boko, above interventions must be implemented. We thank you so much, Honorable Minister. Viva workers' power, viva! Viva! Viva the spirit of no surrender, viva! Viva!